Good day, I'm Fiona Alexander Smith. I'm here with the Honorable Paul Lewis, Minister of Communications, Works, Labour and Energy, along with the civil engineer, Rawlson Patterson. And today we'll be speaking about the ongoing roadworks taking place in Virgin Islands. Minister Lewis, first of all, let's take me back to when this project actually started.
First of all, thank you, Fiona and GIU. Thanks also to the PRO, Miss Shauna Harley, who is here. Uh, well, once you're going around and you're visiting the constituents, and if you don't visit them, they visit you if they have a problem. So, we are aware of this. I would call it lack of access, so to speak, although there was indeed already a road push in a sense, but it had deteriorated significantly, and that also there was no drainage whatsoever. It make it very difficult at times for persons who use what was left of this, if you could call it a road. And we realized too that persons could not get to their homes. In some areas, what they had to do is utilize other properties. Well, these areas are about to be sold, and no one know if someone is going to fence it or use it. So I think that the decision to surface this road and put in drainage is very timely, and the residents have already extend or show their appreciation for having the road done at this time, although of course naturally we would all want to do it even earlier. But this is a road that seems to be forgotten by everyone, and we have made it our business as part of our maintenance of the network and also the rehabilitation of our road network. What we do is to make visits to all the areas and see where some of the most critical areas are. Of course, naturally, every area needs attention, and sometimes to make a decision, you need to look at where the most critical areas are so that you could decide where to spend some of the money. This is an area that where you'll find that no cars was able to come down here, period. No vehicles. Maybe if you have a real rugged 4x4, and it had to be a good 4x4 to get down here. I don't see most person down here have any of that. I don't see anybody, matter of fact, living down here have any of that. And of course, what we had was some complaint in terms of the erosion of some properties. And when it rained heavily, what we noticed too is that persons would have invited me. I've gone and seen in the house right after the rain how the mud would have washed, the water and mud washed into their house, and it was really awful. So part of the project is to divert a particular drain and send it into another direction so that we mitigate against the amount of water that comes down that route, so that we could protect the properties in question. This project, well, in terms of it getting underground, was earlier this year, but we had put this project on the program for a while, but we're only now able to get around to it, right? So we are really pleased that eventually we're able to get down to the project, that we're able to surface the road, put in drainage, and we have started what eventually would be retaining walls completed. And of course, as I said, the most important thing is that the residents has expressed their appreciation and gratitude for the work done thus far.
All right, so you mentioned that the road has been surfaced so far, the drain works are already completed, and the retaining wall is the next thing to be done.
Yes, and I also forget to mention the starting of the driveways. We would have started the driveways, but then residents would complete their own driveways. But we give it a start from the main road onto where their driveway would have started, and then they would complete the rest of the driveway in their own timing.
Okay, so the retaining wall is the final stage of this project?
I say yes. I would say the retaining wall, once we complete the retaining walls, because we already surfaced the road, we've done the drainage. However, this is only several meters of the entire distance. And when you get to the top, you'll notice that there's still a rough or rugged area that we need to link to the original main road. However, we can't do that until we, as I said earlier, we need to divert the drain. The drain has to be diverted, and therefore we'll have to construct that drain first before we can build a road over it and take the water away from where it's heading presently, because as I said before, it is causing significant damage to properties, and we don't want that. We want to mitigate against that.
Right. What's the targeted completion date for the entire road work here in Virgin Islands?
Well, you know, when it comes to exact dates, I prefer to pass that over to the engineers.
Okay, so Mr. Patterson, let's speak a little bit about the projected completion time for the road work here in Virgin Islands. What are we looking at?
Okay, and I'm so glad that we could be here in Virgin Islands seeing the actual completion of the road surfacing. But the outstanding works we're expected to complete it sometime at the end of this year, which is the third quarter of the financial year, and any other residual work we will try to complete before the end of the financial year going into 2019. But majority of the work should be completed by the end of this year, 2018. It's a good piece of work. It's over 100 meters of road and drainage works. And if you had seen this area before, as the minister mentioned, it was quite treacherous, I would put it. Though steep, we were able to take out some of the steepness, and it's a lot more comfortable, especially when the residents have to use it during inclement weather, and that is important. This project is in keeping with Governments of Montserrat priority agenda, which is part of providing access to our residents, safe access that is, and that is key. And along with the access comes the drainage, and that is being done. In terms of what went on here, we would have prepared the road, we would have done the designs. We had to do a few changes, taking into consideration the topography, to include the various driveways. We had to put that into consideration, and once the design was completed, we then got into action following all the tender and the procurement works. Once we were in, we prepared the base and ensured that it's completed properly. It's substantial so that this road could last, its design lifetime.
All right, so you mentioned the road being able to last its designed lifetime. How long are we looking at for this road?
Well, concrete roads are designed to last between 20 to 30 years, 25 to 30 years. And with that, requires some maintenance during that period. It may even last a bit longer with some very good maintenance work, ensure that the drains are cleared, ensure that we don't have erosions along the side and that sort of stuff. And, given the topography, I think the concrete surface is quite suitable for this area.
Okay. Minister Lewis also mentioned the retaining walls as the next step. When are we looking to start that actual part of this project?
Well, we're actually now completing the procurement documents so that we can go out and have that done. And we're hoping that, like I mentioned before, by the end of this year, that work will be completed. Okay. As you can see here, we have done a lot of the prep work to accommodate the retaining wall. The foundation has already been prepared. The starting reinforcement, the starter bars, and the column, the main reinforcement for the columns are all in place. So that would happen in some time to come, if not in short order.
All right, and obviously this project would have resulted in employment for a number of persons. Can you speak to that in terms of how many persons would have been employed under this project?
Yes, we would have employed five contractors, and estimated about 25 persons in total would have benefited from this work, being employed on the project, and also taking into consideration heavy equipment. We had excavator on site, which are all private. We had compactors on site, various trucks. We had to buy materials as well. And so a number of folks, hardware suppliers and so on would have benefited from this work.
Right. Okay, I know we are in Virgin Islands because we're speaking about this particular road project, but I do know that other projects are taking place, particularly in Bazis. There's that project taking place and other areas. Minister Lewis, would you want to give us an update on, the progress being made on those other projects?
Yes, thank you. Obviously, Virgin Islands is just one section of the road network that we are improving. And of course, as we speak, there is also some drainage work started in the Fritz area. This is the area where we sometimes consider as the original shelter buildings that are housing units. And this road, we did actually extend the road in terms of, if you want to say, the clearing of the dirt to complete the road and take it to the top. So it's, I would say, most 3 times as long as what it was before. Because we had was actually the road going to the top, say, to the second to last house, and but there are several houses that are at the top. However, what happened? We had a demarcation of where the road should be on the plan, but there was never any road actually constructed. So we had to clear the surface to extend that road. But what we're doing at the moment is improving the original portion of the road that was there.
Okay.
So it's a two-phase thing. And we have started the drainage work on that area, and we are looking to also surface it. This is important because the number of the residents there had complained they could not get up there when it rains, and we had gone there several times and made some temporary taking some temporary corrective measures. However, we realized that, it gets washed out more often than we could correct it. So we made a decision to just do a permanent fix, and Mr. Patterson will speak to you more on that. However, let me just touch base on Judy Peace. We have been to Judy Peace once or twice, and now we are in the process. I think, if I'm not, yes, I think it is that we started pouring yesterday. That's the area from the end where you had the ex-police Woodley. That area we poured yesterday. And then we have the area way back in at the other end where you have Tash and electrician Raymond Corbett living. We're working on that, preparing that so we could cast that as well. So when those are finished, you could say that the Judy Peace road and drainage work will be completed, and what's left is basically some minor works like the retaining walls, etc. I like to say that we have never received any large project funding for this road. But if you go and look at the road, you'll think we did. What we did was actually every year we chose a section and we did a section. So over 4 years, we are able to now complete the road. And I think that's strategic and a matter of applying wisdom, because you got to make whatever you have work. And I think that we'll be more than happy one day to go over there and let you see for yourself the completion of the road. We know that we had started also the Bazis Bridge, and we had done some work on both sides of the bridge. And of course, we took a break, but now we have persons back on the job working within the gut. And I'm pleased to see that we are doing so, because we need to complete that so that we could get to the next stage where we work on the Carsby Bridge. Mr. Patterson will let you know that work have started there in terms of the utility companies making preparation for us to move in to start the actual bridge. So that is just to give you an idea of what we're working on. And in order to make sure that we create even more jobs, you are aware of the normal main road, grass, verge cutting, and drainage, cleanage. We basically extended and went out into the communities and created about 15 other contracts that would employ about 30 other persons, just to make sure that people have something to do and make a living.
Okay, great. So I'm going to turn back to Mr. Patterson now, just to expound a bit more on the scope of the works taking place in Fritz, in Bazis, and of course Judy Peace. And as well, we want to look at when are we looking for the completion of each of those projects.
Okay, so as the minister mentioned, we are currently doing works in Fritz, and that would also involve concrete road as well. We have completed the drainage works there. It's about 60 meters of concrete road to be completed, though the road itself is a bit longer, but working within our means and within our budget, we will choose to do some of these critical works in phases. And so eventually we're hoping to surface the entire length of that road. But that bit of work also, we're working steadily to bring that to completion by the end of this year as well. And at the same time, we're working in Judy Peace. So we're working in Virgin Islands, we're working in Fritz, we're working in Judy Peace, and we're working in Bazis at the same time. And just to highlight the Judy Peace bit of work, which is quite extensive, a lot of road, a lot of drains, and last thing that we would have to do as well is the retaining walls. I think today we would be in a position to complete the leg from Police Woodley, ex-Police Woodley, out to where Dr. Barnes' residence, Barnes, no. Burns,
okay.
Dr. Burns, yes.
There we go.
Yes, and so that would bring that leg to completion, and so it allow you to drive from the Judy Peace Methodist Church right down into the valley, and you can exit into either Catgut or back that way, and so to bring that to completion. For years, these residents been complaining that it's difficult, especially when it's raining, to get in, to get out, to get to their residence, even when there's an emergency, and we're quite happy to say that we are able to provide safe and comfortable access for these folks. In terms of what is happening in Bazis at the moment, we are completing the wing walls for the bridge, and once that is complete, we then complete the last bit of road and drainage. So all that we envisage to happen on this side of the calendar. And that would also allow us to get heavily into the works for Casby Bridge, and currently the utilities are there making the temporary provisions so that we ensure that lines are not damaged, both water lines, cable lines, overhead lines. So we're making all the provisions. I have met with all the utilities, and we have discussed at length what should be done and what preparation we should make in order to prevent, things from happening. It would be, quite a challenge if we were to damage the main cabling infrastructure along that bridge, especially for communication. And it's quite difficult to get material into Montserrat. It's quite difficult to splice a line, if possible. Yeah. So we're quite mindful of that. So the background work is being done, prep work is being done, and soon enough we'll be into the Casby Bridge work.
Now, in terms of the value for each of these projects, can you speak to that? The amount of funds that would have been pumped into completing these roads, or starting at least?
Well, I could speak to, because it's various funding, various small bits of contracts, but I could say to date our maintenance budget would have gone over $1 million for the first half of the year. Each year our maintenance budget is just about 2.8 million, and we would have gone about 1.4, which is in keeping, showing that we are trying to stay on schedule and stay on top of our spending.
Okay, great. So if I understood you correctly, by the end of this year, we should have the Virgin Islands Road completed, the Fritz Road completed, and also Judy Peace completed.
And Judy Peace completed.
All right, so
yes.
That's quite promising for us here on Montserrat. Any final comments from you?
Well, I just want to thank, first of all, the residents for accommodating us and for allowing us to, making their lives a bit more comfortable. Also, kudos to the engineers, the surveyors, our workmen, our foremen, our PWD guys, and the contractors who were involved in, accomplishing what we have accomplished so far.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Patterson. All right. So, Minister Lewis, final comments as we wrap up our interview here.
Yes, I would like to first of all thank the residents for their patience and also thank them for believing in us. And want to thank the staff at MCWL, the contractors, and all the different service providers that were employed on this project. I would like to thank you, the rest of the press, you, meaning GIU, and yourself, Fiona, Ms. Shauna Harley, and of course ZGB Radio and the rest of the press for bringing about the awareness of what the government of Montserrat is doing, and in terms of creating employment and improving the standard of living, access to property and to villages, etc. I would like to mention, however, and perhaps use this opportunity to appeal to drivers and pedestrians with us as we try to improve the road networks and also supervise works on behalf of other departments and ministries. One of those come to mind is the preparation to link the area of the road by the Osborne and the area just around by what we call the BB Bread Shop. And then to do that, we must do some construction of the road, meaning that we must do a little bit of destruction of the road, so to speak, because we got to excavate and put the ducts in. And of course, that can be a little bit inconvenient. So we want to just appeal to the public to bear with us. As you ask us to do things, we do it, but then while we're doing it, there's some level of inconvenience. So we need you to bear with us and work with us. Then there will be also the excavation and installation of ducts from that same junction down to the entrance at Mull. Okay. So just a little bit of a preview so that persons are aware that this is coming and coming soon, so they could prepare mentally for the adjustments that will be required traffic-wise and speed-wise.
Okay, you mentioned putting in ducts. That is part of the terrestrial fiber optic project.
Yes, those ducts would allow the laying of the terrestrial fiber, and of course, DITE's responsible for that aspect of it, but we are supervising the works. So as I said, we is one government. We do facilitate other departments and ministries.
Okay. So, Minister Lewis, thank you so much for providing us with this update, and also Mr. Patterson, thank you. Thank you for watching and listening to this interview.